50 feet beneath the burning streets of Berlin, in a concrete bunker that smelled of diesel fuel and fear. The man who had plunged the world into history's deadliest war was waiting to die. It is April 20th, 1945, Adolf Hitler's 56th birthday. Outside, Soviet artillery shells are landing less than a mile away. The Red Army, 2.5 million soldiers, has encircled the city. The Reich that Hitler had promised would last 1,000 years will survive him by exactly 7 days. In those 7 days, inside 12 rooms of reinforced concrete 15 meters underground, more decisions would be made, more loyalties broken, and more history compressed into a single space than almost anywhere else in the 20th century. What happened in the bunker in those final 10 days is not the heroic last stand of Nazi mythology. It is something far stranger and far more human. The story of Hitler's last days has been told many times. The movie, the memes, the cultural myth of a raving, broken dictator screaming at maps. That story is not wrong, but it is incomplete. What the historical record actually shows, drawn from the testimonies of his secretaries, his doctor, his closest aides, is a man of terrifying contradictions. Moments of supernatural calm, followed by eruptions of total unreality. In this video, we're going inside the Führerbunker, room by room, decision by decision, day by day. And we're going to answer the question that every account dances around, but rarely confronts directly. At what point did Hitler know it was over? The answer will surprise you. By April 1945, the Third Reich exists mostly on paper. In the East, Marshal Zhukov's and Marshal Konev's fronts have launched the Berlin Offensive, the largest artillery bombardment in history. 41,600 Soviet guns fired simultaneously on April 16th. The ground shook 200 miles away. The German forces defending Berlin, boys from the Hitler Youth, old men from the Volkssturm, scattered Wehrmacht remnants, perhaps 45,000 soldiers against 2.5 million Red Army troops. Inside the Führerbunker, Eva Braun, who arrived April 15th and refused to leave. Goebbels, with his wife and 6 children, brought to die with the Reich. Martin Bormann, obsessively documenting every order. Dr. Morell, injecting Hitler with a daily cocktail of vitamins, stimulants, and narcotics. And the generals, men who have learned over years never to deliver news that contradicts what Hitler wants to believe.
On April 20th, Hitler's birthday, senior Nazi officials arrived to pay their respects. Göring, Himmler, Ribbentrop, many seeing Hitler in person for the last time. Those who see him are shocked. He has aged decades in months. His left hand trembles. His eyes have a glassy, remote quality. After the reception, most senior officials quietly flee Berlin. On April 21st, Hitler orders a counterattack. SS General Steiner's army group will strike the Soviet northern flank. Hitler announces it will break the encirclement. His generals exchange silent glances. Steiner's army group barely exists as a coherent unit. No one says this out loud. On April 22nd, the situation briefing reveals Steiner's attack has not begun, will not begin, cannot begin. And for the first time, in the testimony of everyone present, Hitler's composure completely breaks. He screams for 3 hours. He accuses his generals of treason. Then, as suddenly as it began, the storm passes. He sits down, asks for tea, begins discussing in calm detail the technical specifications of a new anti-aircraft gun. In a moment, we're going inside the final 48 hours. The wedding, the will, the last will, the decision about the body, and at the one fact about Hitler's death that the Soviet Union concealed for over 40 years. Stay with us. On April 28th, head of the SS, his most loyal servant, has been secretly negotiating surrender terms with the Western Allies. The betrayal is total. Hitler orders Himmler arrested, orders the execution of Himmler's liaison officer, Eva Braun's brother-in-law, who was dragged from the bunker and shot in the garden. That same night, Hitler marries Eva Braun. A small ceremony in the conference room. She begins to sign Eva B., then corrects it to Eva Hitler. They have a small wedding breakfast. Hitler dictates his political testament. He blames the Jews for the war. He blames his generals for every defeat. He accepts no personal responsibility for anything. He is still dictating when Soviet forces are fighting in the streets 2 blocks away. On April 30th, at approximately 3:30 in the afternoon, Hitler and Eva Braun entered his private study. Those waiting outside heard a single gunshot. Eva Braun showed no visible wound. She had taken cyanide. Their bodies were carried into the garden and burned. The Soviet army was less than 400 meters away. For years, the Soviet Union claimed Hitler had escaped. In 2018, French forensic scientists gained access to teeth held in Moscow archives since 1945. DNA analysis confirmed they matched Hitler's known dental records. He had not escaped. He had not survived. In that bunker garden, on the afternoon of April 30th, 1945, the Third Reich effectively ended. Germany surrendered unconditionally on May 8, 1945, 8 days after Hitler's death. What the bunker left behind was not just the end of a regime. It was a case study in the terminal stage of a system built on the cult of a single individual. In those final 10 days, Germany still had armies in the field. It still had functioning ministries. Millions of soldiers prepared to fight and die on orders they received. None of it mattered, because the system had been so completely centered on one man that when that man descended into unreality, ordering phantom armies, conducting a wedding while shells fell 200 meters away, the entire structure followed him. The 6 children of Joseph and Magda Goebbels, whose names all began with H in honor of Hitler, were killed by their own mother on the night of May 1st. She could not imagine a world for them without National Socialism. That detail, perhaps more than any other, captures what had been built in Germany between 1933 and 1945. In 10 days inside 50 feet of concrete beneath a burning city, the most destructive political movement of the 20th century played out its final act. Not with dignity, not with clarity, but with phantom armies and a wedding breakfast, and a political testament that blamed everyone except the man writing it. The lesson of the bunker is not about Hitler's madness. It is about the system that made his madness possible. The generals who didn't speak, the officials who fled, the loyal servants who stayed and carried out orders until the last possible moment. History does not end with one man's decision to pull a trigger in a concrete room. It begins with all the smaller decisions, made by ordinary people, over years, that made that room inevitable. Next week, the German officers who tried to stop it, the men behind the July 20th plot to assassinate Hitler, who they were, why they waited so long, and why, when they finally acted, they failed. Subscribe. That story changes everything you think you know about the German resistance.